She's going to speak for a few minutes. She's going to give the back to me. I'll speak for a few minutes, and then Matt Carroll is going to basically take it from there, and we'll start the program. So come, Supervisor Parks, thank you for me.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I know that what we're here for, we'd rather not be here for. There was a lot of damage in Bell Canyon. I'm on the Board of Supervisors. My district goes from, we have Bell Canyon, I've got Oak Park, I've got Malibu, Yerba Buena, City of Thousand Oaks, even Cal State University Channel Islands in my district. All those areas were impacted in some way by the fires. Bell Canyon was certainly one of the hardest hit, and our hearts go out to your community. I was here to be able to see what the damage was, and while it was great, you know, I was so impressed by the firefighters, and you can just see what they say. And we are very thankful. Today, I wanted to make sure that you could have all the information you need about the steps forward. So this is really to talk about recovery and what we can do. And always we want to do better in the future. So we also want to get information on how we can do better. So today we brought for you all the experts in our county. Unfortunately, we actually have tremendous expertise because of the Thomas fires. It hasn't even been a year where we lost over 500 homes to the Thomas fire in Ventura County. But our county really stepped up, and we have gained incredible experience from that. And we know how we can move it and move it fast to get recovery and to be able to get you services. Today we have our CEO of Ventura County, Mike Powers, will be here. We have our fire chief, Mark Lorenzen, here for you. We have our public works director, Jeff Pratt, here for you. There's also a human side to all of this, and our human services agency is here, and they will be able to tell you the services that they have. Behavioral health department is also here today, as well as our partners with the state and federal agencies that are here. We want to make sure, just as we had a total concentration of all these different agencies to fight the fires, we have that same concentration to help us with recovery. So I just really want you to know that we're here for you. We have services. You're going to get your head full of so much information, but know that you can always catch up with us. My assistant, Venice, over here is raising her hand. She's got a bunch of my business cards, a bunch of her business cards. You need something, we're there for you. We can help you navigate issues with the county. We also have assistance centers out there. Right now there's a fire assistance center in Thousand Oaks that will be open until Tuesday at the Thousand Oaks Library. So we have that for you. You'll hear a lot of information. Talking with one of the residents here who, thank God, his house also was saved. He's been here since 1969 and said there's never been a house lost to a fire in Bell Canyon. And that just is amazing to me, because when I think of Bell Canyon, often it is, like I was here in 2005 when the last fire went through. You think of these things, and it's just amazing that we've gone this long. But unfortunately, we are all here today for this. We will find out some good information. As was mentioned, I woke up on Thursday too, hearing about the horrible tragedy at the borderline, 2 in the morning, and helped the families of the victims, trying to give them some comfort, because that's about all I could do. And then got mandatory evacuation 2 in the morning the next night from my house. So I feel for all of you for the fact that you were all out of your homes. I'm glad that you are able to come back now. I know not all of us will, and I really give my heart out to those who have lost your homes, those who have had damage, and I'm really, I'm glad that you will have good services. please let me know if there's anything my office can do. And with this, let me turn it over back to your Eric Wolf, who was actually putting out fires too, from what I understand. Congratulations for that. And, you guys are amazing. I mean, to have your own fire truck. I don't know another homeowner association that has that, and it came to good use too. So you're in good hands, and thank you all for coming, and I wish you all the best. This is a certificate of appreciation to Eric from the city of Los Angeles for his good work that he's done. And I just want to end by saying that, you know, it's all a matter of perspective. You know, to people who lost their lives. You look at up in Butte County and the loss of lives there, it's just, I can't even imagine. And then also, obviously, people have lost their homes here. And then I'm going to funerals of these beautiful young men and women in Thousand Oaks from the borderline. So it gives you some perspective, and you realize how important life is, and community is, and the whole nation is there for us, you know, so it's nice to know. Thank you all.
Thank you, Supervisor Parks. Wow. So we're here, right? Yeah. We're here. Right? So this was a crazy week. I don't know where this came from, but you know, this really goes out to all the volunteers. I really do appreciate, you know, the support and the good words and stuff, but I'm just a part of the team. Everyone on the team has a place, has a position, and has their role. You know, and I have my role, and all the rest of the volunteers have their roles. But nothing happens without a strong team. So this really goes to all the team, to all the people who stayed behind, for all the people who were driving. I don't know who was here when we started. Who was here when we started doing the caravan? Who was here doing the caravan? That was crazy, right? Getting the people, ferrying them in and out, getting medication. This thing just happened really fast. And we all know this thing just happened fast. Friday was crazy, okay, from Thursday night. So I want to just do a few acknowledgments. I was thinking, and if this is an idea that someone came up with, I'm thinking of doing some kind of, that we'll do just a community potluck, right? Yes. Around Thanksgiving, right? We have a lot to be thankful for. We have the things we have to be thankful for, the 750 homes that did not burn, okay? I can tell you firsthand how many homes were saved, okay? Either with the volunteers, putting them on ourselves, and the firefighters. So I know we've never lost a home before, but we never had a fire like this before. This has never happened before. The fire was coming from everywhere. It had its own weather system. It was completely crazy. The wind goes that way, the fire starts over there. I don't know how it works, and there's experts that know this stuff, but it was completely crazy. And people, when I was up there, it was just wonderful. I was asking for volunteers, and people they had things to do. Okay, can you take my kids? And they volunteered their vans, their SUVs, and they just started driving people. And that's the only way we could have done it, because the firefighter was saying, look, we have to control traffic. And by the way, you guys did a great job of not just trying to come in and just look around, because that would be in their way. So this community, I believe, is going to be stronger. And we're very lucky. All we have to do is look up north and to see what could have happened. So I do want to acknowledge several people, and then I'll be that, you know, we're going to do this again at a different time, and I know I'm going to be forgetting some people. But I want to acknowledge, I want to start off with, obviously, the firefighters, right? Firefighters, you know, I hear people, we never lost a home, what happened? It was impossible. it was just impossible. I was here, I never left from Thursday, and I think the first time I left, and the first time I saw my family, I don't remember what day it was, but I think it was maybe, well, it's probably 5 days later. And I can tell you, they did everything that was humanly possible. They didn't sleep, they didn't eat. Actually, people brought them food. It was it was unbelievable. The other people I would like to, several people stayed behind and saved their homes. And you have to realize by saving their homes, they probably saved other people's homes, and they probably saved their neighbor's home. But there's a small group, Dustin is one of them, and hold on, because Yoav is there too, okay, and Richard Levy, and Jeff Abity, okay, as well as BCA staff. Okay, this is what happened. BCA staff completely helped in saving not only the equestrian center, but these people, we took our water truck, okay, we have a water truck that waters the arena, and they were literally going home to home, putting up fires with the water truck when the fire department needed us because we got some really low water for a point there in one of the streets. The wharf head wasn't working. We took that water truck up to support the firefighters up on Wrangler, I believe that was. Sadly, one home was lost, but they saved all the rest of the homes. That fire was so intense that it was just ridiculous. You couldn't see 3 feet ahead of you. So I want to acknowledge Yoav, Shalev, Dustin, Abadi, Levy, and Richard, as well as BCA staff. So on Friday, BCA staff said, look, we need you, you were here by firefighters, right? They jumped on that water truck, and we were putting out fires from within people's homes. We saw one home up on the Stagecoach, up on the top, and I can't tell you how surreal it is, being in someone's living room with a hose in someone's living room. It's what every mom told you not to do, right? I'm in the living room with a hose, telling BCA maintenance staff to start breaking the drywall because the 2x4s were on fire because of the heat that was coming from the outside. That is just a surreal experience. Right, being in someone's home with it. So BCA staff and those individuals I mentioned literally saved homes, and not just theirs. I don't even know if they even saved theirs, but they were going from home to home, street to street, where are the fires, shovels, and we finally had to evacuate the BCA staff. The volunteers stayed. It was there, they could do that, but we could not put our staff at that kind of risk when the mandatory evacuation and the fires got so intense on Friday afternoon that we had to let them go. The volunteers stayed, but the staff saved your homes. So a shameless plug here, but don't forget that when the bonuses come around for the holiday bonuses. Last but not least, Nicole Stiller, Nazi, Dr. Kate Vadera, and Elizabeth Laurie. So I was up, as you know, trying to help with the traffic and ferry people, and Nicole comes to me and says, how are we going to help these people afterwards? We've lost so many homes. She organized this whole thing that you see over here. This whole thing was organized by these 4 people with Nicole and Lisa, I forgot Lisa Ricamini, she's looking at me, and she's like the MVP of this board, and I apologize because she did like a bit of everything, right? She was everywhere, right? There must have been many of them. So we're collecting, the outpour of support was huge, and we're collecting a lot of donations, but I want to make this part clear. So this is not just about Bell Canyon. All the stuff that we are putting together is going to go to other communities once we take care of this community. So all these things are going to go up, are going to stay first in our county, and then hopefully go up to Paradise, and we're thinking even on Thanksgiving we'll just get a truck and drive up and just take all this stuff up there, or however work through Red Cross. I don't know how this works, but we'll figure it out. I'm forgetting a lot of people, okay? All the drivers. Ashton is right there, that he just like, hey, how can I help? all this guy, his name is Cho, I don't know his last name, he actually closed escrow on Friday. So he closed on Friday, and he was just there standing. I'm like, who's this guy? His English wasn't great, he's Chinese. And he's like, how can I help? And he just stood there, and everyone just jumped in, he started referring people. I cannot tell you how proud I am of him. So, thank you. With this, I'm going to take it back to the county. Who's actually emceeing for you guys? Oh, Mike Powers, the CEO. Wow, we really have it going here today. Thank you, Linda Parks. There she. Matt, thank you.
That's great, thank you. I'm Mike Powers. I have the privilege of serving as your county executive officer, and it's an honor to be with you here today. As I know Supervisor Parks already spoke of, we share so much in the grief for this community, the borderline tragedy, and then on top of that, two fires here locally, and many of you have lost homes or you had your homes damaged, and we feel that for your trauma in doing that too, because we know that is a traumatic experience. One of the things we wanted to do here today is help start the recovery process, the rebuilding process. Sadly, we have some experience of this dealing with the Thomas Fire. And because of that, we worked very closely with our Cal OES, Office of Emergency Services Department, with FEMA. They helped us put a structure in place to have the leadership and administration so we can act and try to move as quickly as possible and not get hung up in the bureaucracy of things. And things are happening. Recovery is happening in the West County. Just to let you know, it probably seems like a long way away from right now. I can just only imagine what you may be feeling. It looks like a long road, but it's a journey that we'll get there. And they're getting there in Western County. Lots are cleared, permits are being processed, rebuilding is happening. So we just want you to know that. And so we have a whole slew of experienced experts here today to talk about the whole range of recovery issues, from public health issues and things like debris removal, right? There's a whole process for that, and we've gone through that. There's 2 phases of that. You're going to hear about that. Cal OES has been great at working with us to make that happen as quickly as possible. And there's the rebuilding process, right? Permit processing. And we've started on a process to expedite our permit review processing, and that's really helping things. And then things about flood protection, right? We're just dealing with this hot, dry weather, and you're thinking about, why are we thinking about that? But with the burned areas, there's increased risk of flooding, and so we want to let you know about the increased monitoring we have for rainfall and water flow and velocity and all that, so that we can give you all warnings as needed. So that's just a little bit of a sense, and then a whole sorts of other things like vital records and property tax assessments that we want to help you with. So there's a lot of information you're going to hear today, because we want to lay it out for you and answer your questions and help you as you're rebuilding this beautiful community of Bell Canyon out here. First off, what we're going to do though too is get updates from our fire and sheriff leadership, and I can tell you, I was with many of them that night after the borderline. Many of them were there the very next night. They were right out there front center in the community, going door to door, helping people evacuate, fighting this fire from door to door, and they just did an amazing job. And so with that, I will turn it over to our fire chief and just say thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and we will be with you on your journey to recovery and rebuilding your community. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Lorenzen. I am the fire chief for the Ventura County Fire Department. As I was driving in here this afternoon, I saw the sign just before I turned up that said Bell Canyon Strong. And now that I'm sitting here in this room with all of you, I recognize those are not just words. That truly is your community. You have, and you can just feel how strong and tight-knit the community is. You guys are so fortunate to live in such a tight-knit, resilient community. Can I just have a show of hands at how many people lost their homes in here? So, our hearts go out to you. That is one home lost is one home too many. My hope is with my report today, I'll share with you our current status and just some ideas, is to give you some clarity on sometimes it's just as understanding what happened and why. Before I start, I would just like to recognize that we're obviously not the only firefighters that come in here. In your community, you've had firefighters from all over Southern California, but I need to at least recognize we have with us Assistant Chief from LA City Fire Department, Dan Drake. So thank you, Dan. So just a quick update on what's happening with the fire. Obviously, we know the Santa Ana winds are probably the biggest driver of our fires. Unfortunately for us, they stopped blowing right around Wednesday, which gives us a great opportunity to control the fires. So as of this morning, we were a little over 98,000 acres. That doesn't include the Hill Fire, which was about 4,500 acres. 78% containment. We expect those numbers to go up quickly. There's probably still about 1,200 firefighters on the fire lines. Over 713 structures were destroyed during the fire. 154 of those in Ventura County. The remainder were in Los Angeles County. And obviously, we know there was a significant number here in Bell Canyon. What I'd really like to share with you are the fire conditions, and probably most helpful because you've heard a number of stories here how we have not lost a home in Bell Canyon since in the 60s. And you might want to know why. What's changed? And I will say things have changed. And you know, we look over the last 2 years at the fires that happened up in Santa Rosa, and then our Thomas fire here. It was for a brief period of time the largest fire in the history of the state. It had taken 15 years for us to break the record held by the Cedar Fire in San Diego, and 6 months later, the Mendocino complex broke our record. Something's different. And then we look right now at just the tragic Camp Fire up in Butte County that devastated the town of Paradise and other small cities up there. And now, obviously, our Woolsey Fire. Fires are burning so much more exponentially faster than they ever have. You know, part of it is we are in the 7th year of a drought. Our fire season is legitimately just about year-round. I think last year we were out of our high fire season for about 3 weeks. It didn't used to happen that way. So our vegetation is not recovering. It is just absolutely dead as can be. And it's interesting. In the past, we used to come into fires, and our primary purpose was to go in and put a perimeter around it, even when we had wind-driven fires. It almost doesn't happen now. Now we're going in with our primary idea being we're going to go in and protect structures. And now we're finding, we saw it on the Thomas Fire and then again on the Woolsey Fire, we're having to shift out of structure protection and go into active rescue mode. We are so fortunate here in Ventura County to be connected at the hip with our sheriff and our sheriff's OES, and are about as proactive as you can be on evacuations, but still we find the fires move so quickly, and the public's not used to the fires moving so quickly that we're having to go in and actually engage in evacuation efforts. And it's not just our firefighters, and my hat is off to our law enforcement partners. The sheriff's office, as I was in Oak Park on Thursday night watching, these guys were literally going and knocking on doors and dragging people out of homes, throwing them in their patrol cars and taking them to safety. That 3-4 years ago, that didn't happen, and that happened all over on the Thomas Fire, all over again on this fire. And the one thing I will say, you know, in spite of the fact that we lost so many homes, what I can say is we didn't lose any civilian lives as a result of our communities not evacuating. That is, yes, you started to apply. That is dramatic, and it's your firefighters from here in Southern California and our law enforcement officers that really do that. So, you know, it's interesting. I was looking at the numbers, and I took a helicopter flight on Thursday morning to go and look. I went along PCH up Deer Hill and Yerba Buena and through Sherwood and in and around the communities of Thousand Oaks and Oak Park, and then up here into Bell Canyon. And what I saw, I was expecting to see neighborhoods leveled, and what I saw was a home here, a couple homes there, and truly and it was mentioned a little bit earlier, it was dramatic how many homes were saved. And that is not to diminish the loss of those that lost their homes here, but just recognize the amazing work of the firefighters and law enforcement officers here. And it sounds like even with some of your own community members that ignored the mandatory evacuation warnings and will give you absolution here right now. And help save your communities. It was, it's just interesting, and we will hear it, and the complaints that there weren't enough firefighters or fire engines, and I will say absolutely there were not, and there never will be for situations like this. Just the timeline was, you're all aware of just the terrible tragedy that occurred at the borderline on Wednesday night. We went from that situation, losing a brother, Sergeant Elis, with the Sheriff's Department, to, on Thursday morning, that procession to honor the heroism, and then 3 hours later, we had the Hill Canyon fire start in Hill Canyon, and 12 minutes later, it had already crossed the 101. I mean, that's how fast it was moving. And then 20 minutes after that, we had the Woolsey Fire start. Initially, that wasn't our concern. Our biggest concern had been, well, I don't want to say it wasn't our concern, but the biggest threat initially was the rapidly moving hill fire. And then about sometime 9 o'clock at night, we were hitting that with a lot of air resources, and it spotted, and the wind caught it, and it started running. And very quickly, it wasn't just impacting one community, it was impacting 4. And again, we had absolutely drained all of our resources from our fire stations. We have in the county 58 stations amongst all of the agencies there. We had 3 fire engines left in the fire stations. Can you not hear?
Would you please comment on the fact that the water supply was compromised, that the water district had not filled the tanks, and as a result, the firefighters could not fight some of the fires that occurred?
So I will say this. Are we going to collect questions cards? Okay. So if you want to write that down on there, we can address the questions at the end. So obviously, water is a pretty important factor in the fight of fires. So we will address questions at the end. Just again, very very quickly, and I'll kind of sum up my comments. As I was saying, out of our 58 stations, we had 3 engines left in the entire county, and obviously our business doesn't cease when we have a fire, but it was to that point where we recognized we needed to really commit virtually all of our resources to doing structural protection and active evacuation. So, and again, our partners to the south in LA City and LA County did the same thing. Everybody stretched, and we called and phoned friends and neighbors, and they sent resources up here. But in situations like this, legitimately, we will never have an engine to protect every home, and in these fire situations, that's what it's coming to. Right? You guys recognize that, you saw that. So I will say obviously there will be lessons learned. We will go and do after-action reviews to see things, see if there are ways we can deal with this. We can't just acknowledge that this is the new normal and keep doing things the way they are. We'll look at, and you guys are probably our best community as far as defensible space goes, and we recognize even in these fires, defensible space is not the only solution. It doesn't do it all by itself. So we're going to go back and look at building construction, look at our building our defensible space standards, and move forward from there. So with that, I will answer questions at the end, and I'd like to turn it over to our Sheriff's Office, and this is Sheriff's Commander Randy Watkins.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Sheriff Bill AU, the men and women of the Sheriff's Department, and Ron Elis's family, we thank you. We have felt your love, and I want to put that on the record right now. We believe in you because this is the best community that you could ever work for, and the family is doing well because of all the support that you poured into their life. And our hearts go out to you for the loss of your homes. We will do everything in our ability to make sure that you feel safe while you rebuild, that when people come in and target you in a looting type of atmosphere, that we're there to catch those people that are trying to victimize your community. We've always had a strong relationship with Bell Canyon, and we love you as much as you love us. Today, I was asked to talk about the evacuation notification process. For those that are unfamiliar with it, it's pretty complicated, but it's very simplistic to explain. There's a lot of technology that goes on behind the scenes, and some boots on the ground. The technology part is the systems that have an emergency alert system, computerized, and then it's into a wireless emergency alert system, the cell phone technology, and also the Ventura County alert system,
Yeah, we can't hear.
Speak up.
We can't hear.
All right. I'm talking about the alert system and the process. Is that better?
Yeah.
Great. Ventura County uses a multi-notification system. It's technology coupled with boots on the ground. We have an alert emergency system that's computerized. It ties into a wireless network, so you get cell phone notifications and also landline notifications. And also VC Alert, Ventura County Alerts. So coupled with that, the boots on the ground, we have a tactical response team. That's 4 squads, 7 deputies and a sergeant supervisor. So we have a total of 36 highly trained people that go out immediately during the fires to help in the evacuation process. They train for this monthly, and they're very good at it, especially after the Thomas fire. Also, any patrol deputy that's on duty at the time is set code 3 to the affected area. And on the first night of the fire, I believe around 5 p.m., we started sending deputies into your canyon for the mandatory evacuation. And also the alert system should have notified most of you. Bell Canyon's unique because of the way the topography is in here, and sometimes those cell phones don't get that message. But I hope, and I'd like to get some feedback after if you didn't, but I believe most of you got notified, and that's why we sent the people in on the ground to make those door knocks. And as the fire chief said, it was some heroic actions that night in Oak Park, on the edge of Bell Canyon, and throughout the very large Woolsey Fire that ranged all the way down into Malibu and to the Point of View. We evacuated total in just the sheriff's jurisdiction, more than 90,000 people within a few hours. That's phenomenal. We had no loss of life in the fire. And my understanding, most of the large animals got out, if not all of them. I have not heard of anyone losing their large animal. At least in this canyon, I may be wrong, but I have not heard of that. And we have not heard of any loss of life of pets. So we were very successful that night. And we take those evacuations very seriously. We placed a hard closure at your gate because your particular canyon is really easy to seal off. And we didn't want people getting back in, mainly because the fire operations need your very tight streets in here. It's hard to move fire apparatuses around here if we have people driving their own personal cars. So that's why you probably saw LAPD, who helped us out at the gate and maybe turned many of you away for your safety. About 4 days later, the wind turned around quite a few times, and about 4 days later, we collectively, that's the Fire Incident Command, and then the sheriff, and Public Works, and the Edison, we all talk about when we can repopulate, and repopulation happened on November 12th at about 8 p.m. We pulled the guard and we started letting people back in. So that's in a nutshell how the system works and how it affected you during this fire. And the second item that I've come tasked with is the disaster declaration status. That obviously went all the way up to the president, local, state, and the president of the U.S. And there's other speakers tonight that will talk about some of the things available to you. I can take questions after on question and answers. The next speaker is Human Services Deputy Director Melissa Livingston.
I'm just going to jump in real quick, just so you know you can hear me. First thing I want to do is, as we move into the recovery phase of the discussion, is introduce our recovery director, and that's Matt Carroll. So one of the things that OES recommended we do is appoint a high-level person, high-level administrator. He's our former assistant CEO of the county. And also, fortunately for us, he was the recovery director during the Thomas fire. In fact, he's still doing it as well, so he's got a lot of experience doing this, and he's going to coordinate this effort and talk about the rest of the briefings here. Matt.
So we'll go through now and move from the disaster response to recovery. Before I turn over, I did want to just make one comment on the question cards that were at the back of the table. Group this large, there's many questions. We find the most effective way to address them is collect those question cards send them in. We'll send people around periodically, hopefully the homeowner staff can collect those, get them up to us. We'll consolidate them so we don't answer the same question over and over. And if we don't get to your question, most will be addressed as we go through these presentations. It's going to be a content-rich session to have here. But if they're not addressed, either the questions we have some time in here, so if we don't get to your question, it wasn't addressed either by consolidated cards we look at or the presentation itself. These folks will stay around afterwards and you can talk to them individually to ensure your individual question gets answered. We'll stay with after the long presentation. So with that, we'll turn it over to the first part of staff presenters. That's Melissa Livingston, who's the Deputy Director of our Human Service Agency, to talk about the human aspect of services.
Thank you, Matt. Before I begin, I certainly would like to also acknowledge those that experience losses and recognize that a loss of this magnitude is most assuredly a life-changing event. And the uncertainty of next steps and navigating an unknown system is, if anything, challenging and undaunting. So I'm hopeful that the information we can provide for you today can help you all see a clearer path to recovery and healing. I first would like to talk about the shelters. As the fires began, evacuations were occurring in conjunction with trying to decide where to open shelters. And I want to first recognize that opening a shelter is not an easy task, and it doesn't happen with one entity taking the lead. There were multiple entities that came together to collaborate to determine where we needed to open shelters, to ensure those shelters weren't in harm's way, to ensure that we had sufficient capacity to meet the needs of our community. We opened 6 shelters, and we opened those as the fires started, as evacuations were happening. We were opening those shelters in conjunction with those activities. My thanks goes out, most importantly, to the went to the Thomas Fire real quickly there, the city of Thousand Oaks, who stepped up quickly, Caneo Parks and Rec, obviously the County of Ventura, who oversees mass care and shelter, and our Red Cross partners. For those entities coming together quite quickly, we were able to open 6 shelters. During the period of time those shelters were all open, we had 750 residents visit those shelters. During that period of time, we had extensive experience and expertise from our county partners, our county behavioral health, our county public health. We had public health nurses assisting with individuals with access to functional needs. We had our human service agency addressing homeless issues within our shelters. And we also had our emergency management system staff helping with transporting of our access to functional needs population. My thanks goes out to that collaborative group who quickly and swiftly addressed the needs of our community. We today have 1 shelter open. We moved from 750 residents to just over 20 residents that are still being housed. We have 1 location at CLU, and many thanks to CLU for opening up their venue and providing us support, comfort, and care and safety by bringing that venue to our community. I also want to thank the Red Cross, who we shouldn't take for granted. They do this, they've been doing this for a number of years, and most recently the last couple years have been very tiresome for them, for all of the events that they've been supporting. And all of the wildfires up and down California have stretched them very thin. But they came, they stood up, they showed up, they brought their volunteers, and they do what they do well. So I really want to thank the Red Cross, their partners, the Salvation Army, and World Kitchens, who provided their meals. So thank you to the Red Cross and their network. So as we move from response to recovery, we have opened a local assistance center for Ventura County residents. That assistance center opened on Thursday of this week at the 1 o'clock hour. And as of today, we have seen over 100 individuals who have come to that local assistance center. That local assistance center is a one-stop venue for fire victims and residents to come and receive services. And it too is a collaboration of federal, state, county, city, and nonprofit entities coming together. Some of the services that are provided there is just basic recovery information for residents who have experienced losses, replacement of vital records, referral to nonprofits, debris removal information, housing assistance, behavioral health services, permitting information, property assessments, and the beginning of key registration and financial application processes for residents impacted by the fires. Some of the entities that are there, I won't name all of them, but some of them are the DMV, immediately replacing driver's licenses on the spot. U.S. Small Business Administration, State Public Health Vital Records, County Resource Management Agency's Environmental Health Division, County Behavioral Health, County Public Health, County Human Service Agency, City of Thousand Oaks Services, 211 Ventura County, and the Red Cross, and FEMA and insurance entities are also have mobile access across from the local assistance center. The service center hours are from 9 o'clock until 7 o'clock during the weekdays, and on the weekends, the hours are from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. The center is scheduled to close on Tuesday the 20th, but if our community continues to need services, we will remain open until our community needs are served. Lastly, I would like to talk a little bit about housing assistance. There are a variety of different housing assistance venues that will be available to residents that were impacted. But last Tuesday, or this current Tuesday, our County Board of Supervisors have approved a rental assistance program to assist fire victims. And I will also provide you some information momentarily on the LAC. The LAC for Ventura for Thousand Oaks is at 1401 East Jans Boulevard, or actually Road in Thousand Oaks, and that's at the Thousand Oaks Library. So I'm sorry I forgot to provide you that information. So housing assistance, our Board of Supervisors approved for the Thomas Fire General Fund to provide housing assistance to those individuals that became homeless during the fire and needed assistance. The board has reapproved that program again, and it has basic eligibility requirements that one require that a victim has become homeless because of the fire, and the program also has an income limit based upon the number of individuals that are in a household. So for example, a household of 3 with an income of $109,000, it would be eligible for this program. So we have the Human Service Agency here today with a table, and more information about that program is available. But it is an interim housing program. It provides for housing assistance for lost household and personal items, for rental payments, also for moving and storage costs, and other various costs. So again, this is just one housing offering. There are others that will be available through FEMA, through the SBA, and potentially other nonprofit entities that are currently working with disaster relief opportunities. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Levin, the County of Ventura's Public Health Officer.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so sorry we don't have to be here today. I'm going to speak to you about the health consequences of exposure to ash and smoke. How do you know when you're in an area of poor air quality with fire? It's maybe an obvious question to many of us. It's when you smell smoke, when you see falling ash, or when you're experiencing irritation. Ash may be irritating to your skin, nose, lungs, and throat. It may cause coughing and rarely nosebleeds. It can cause reddened, itchy, and teary eyes and sore throat. Fine particles can be inhaled into your lungs and may worsen asthma or other lung conditions. Pregnant women and the elderly and little children should be particularly cautious because they're more sensitive to the health effects of ash. Don't allow children to play in the ash. Wash and clean all children's toys carefully after possible contamination. Children should not be in the vicinity while cleanup is in progress. And keep pets out of the ash, and if they get soiled, wash them. What's the best protection from poor air quality associated with a fire? The best protection, obviously, is leaving the area. The next best protection is to go indoors with windows and doors closed, using air conditioning if desired and available. And the third best is wearing an N95 respirator mask. A word of caution, don't put a mask on people who can't take it off. People who are mentally or physically limited may not be able to remove a mask they can't breathe in. Everyone should limit their amount of time outside and stay indoors as much as possible. Run your home or car air conditioning on recirculate. If you or your children have asthma or another lung disease, make sure you're taking all the medications and stay online with what the doctor is prescribing for you. For those who cannot avoid being outdoors in a smoky environment, the use of a respirator, either an N95 mask or an N100, will help filter out particles, but they do not remove irritating chemicals contained in smoke, in air. And N95 masks are not magic. Their effectiveness is limited. Small-sized respirators cannot be trusted to fit well on children. Effective use of a respirator mask relies on selecting the size and model that will provide a tight seal between the mask and your face. And while this is commonly called a mask, it's really referred to as a respirator. Don't rely on surgical masks. These are the ones that are rectangular pieces of pleated paper with strings hanging off the four corners, or with elastic loops that are supposed to be held by your ears. Surgical masks are used to filter your breath from contaminating others. Respirator masks filter outside air from getting into you. N95 masks last for long periods of time, probably weeks, but if it becomes difficult to breathe with one on, it's time to change. This can happen after only a few hours if it's exposed to ash. Ash in the air, and they should also be changed when they no longer fit properly. Ash from burned structures is generally more hazardous than forest or wildfire ash. Wildfire ash is no more or less harmful than the ash that's in your fireplace. Ash from buildings may contain chemicals such as lead, cadmium, nickel, arsenic. It can contain asbestos, perfluorochemicals, flame retardants, and caustic materials. And because of the substances in the ash vary, it's always best to be cautious and just assume the worst to avoid unnecessary exposure. On returning from a mandatory evacuation, how do you clean your home? Again, the best option is to hire a professional. If you can't or won't do that, wear an N95 mask, long sleeve shirt, long pants, gloves, and minimize skin contact. Because if the smoke and ash is from a nearby burned structure, it can contain toxic and cancer-causing chemicals, which can be absorbed through your skin. Bathe immediately after a cleanup job. If you lost your home and you want to go back and look for possessions after you've received permission to do so, please get yourself a pair of shoes with steel shanks and toes, and be aware of slip, trip, and puncture hazards. The topic of debris removal and the declaration of public health emergency will be discussed in a couple speakers by Charles Gankel of Environmental Health. I'd like to just mention a very important part of public health, as important as the ash in the air, and that is Ventura County Behavioral Health is here to support our community after this series of tragic events. After a disaster, people can feel stress, grief, guilt, or anger. It's important to remember that there are ways to cope. You do not need to deal with difficult times alone. At their website, wellnesseveryday.org, that's wellnesseveryday.org, one word, you will see a box with wildfire and disaster resources. And you'll find there information pages that explain common reactions to stress and include steps people can take to cope and stay healthy after a wildfire, as well as resources and mobile apps that can be used to explain this to children and help them process these events. Behavioral health staff will be at the local assistance center, and in fact there'll be a table out there on the right there for linkage to resources and providers in the area as needed. In addition, if you'd like to speak with a professional, Ventura County Behavioral Health encourages residents to call the crisis team. Help is available in English, Spanish, and other languages. You do not have to suffer in silence or cope alone. Oftentimes, if you have a problem, if you're concerned, if you're anxious, if you're depressed, sometimes just a visitor tool, a behavioral health professional can equip you with tools that can help you deal with things. You're out of there, 1 or 2 visits. Our next speaker is Jeff Pratt, Public Works Agency Director, who will speak about watershed and debris flow. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to cover a couple of topics, and I'm going to be as to the point as I can be. If you have questions, I guess we can get them later. But based on some cards I saw in the comment I heard in the back, I'm going to start with the water and sand side of what happened. Part of Public Works, your Public Works agency, are the special districts. Of course, up here it's Waterworks District 17, and the Watershed Protection Group, which is here today also. I'll be talking about those 2 things. So I want all of you to know that Public Works by law, all Public Works employees are first responders. We are well trained, we know what we're doing, and we were in here helping. So on Friday, our guys were shoulder to shoulder with all the fire crews. I understand there are about 60 trucks up here, going door to door, turning off water services. The fire was burning irrigation systems and causing massive leaks in the system. And by the way, 2 tanks supply the water to Waterworks District 17. One's a 2 million gallon tank, and the other's a 1 million gallon tank. And for all practical purposes, they were both full at the start of the fire. So I'm going to lay the rest of that rumor. The water that is in those tanks is delivered from Simi Valley through a pipeline that I understand can deliver at about 2,500 gallons per minute. We were in constant contact with Simi Valley, trying to up the pressure and push water into those tanks throughout the duration of the fire. So our guys started out here Friday night, going door to door, shutting off water where we had the irrigation leaks. Sometime that evening, because of the constant turning on and turning off of the fire hydrants, the water hammer hit and broke a main line. That main line was isolated in quick order and then repaired. But that was a 1,000 gallon plus a minute leak as an estimate. What happened with our guys here was that before it was all over, we got down to 1 foot in 1 tank. And those tanks hold about 25 feet in one and about 19 in the other. So you realize how close it got. Not one time did we lose pressure of water to firefighters. So it's my information, unless somebody can tell me differently, that we didn't lose any houses as a result of not having that water system working. It was 18 psi at minimum at the top, but down here, as it comes down uphill, the pressure was much higher. So if it had gotten down to 4 psi at the top, you would have been getting boil orders. So second point on the water and sand side, your water safe to drink, it's been heavily tested, and it's running as it should be right now. We have people standing by to help you outside from water and sand. and we've got forms in case we've overlooked somebody, but it's my understanding we've been back through the neighborhoods trying to isolate the irrigation systems and turn the service back on where it was turned off on the evenings of the fire. So we've got people standing by, Eric, Joe, and Raul, raise your hand. They'll be at the tables outside. There'll be forms if there's anything we've overlooked. We want to help and get you back on your feet as soon as possible. And that's the water and sand side of it. Now jumping to watershed protection. That's a little understood part of what we do, but it's a very big part of what we do in public works. You've got a watershed protection system out in the hills that are second to none in the nation. We've got all sorts of gear out there that measures rainfall, stream flow, weather. We have our own weather forecasters that modify and enhance those forecasts we get from the National Weather System or National Weather Service. We do 30-day quantitative precipitation forecast, 14-day, 72-hour, and when the storms are going, we're updating the models every 4 hours. Not only the meteorologic models, but the models that show the water once it's into the streams. Those are called the hydraulic models, excuse me. Our system has been in place and been enhanced over the last 2 decades to a point where we've got a very good calibration between what's going on at the weather stations and what's going on in the streams. So what does that mean practically? Our guys are in the field right now along with fire and others, the state folks, the federal folks, and we're doing a burn assessment on the watershed. So we're looking at burn intensity, slope, vegetative cover, soil types, that sort of thing. We're modifying the models with that new input, and we're running them to see what's going to happen downstream. That's ongoing, and we don't have the results yet, but we should have them coming in early next week. Those models will tell us where we're going to have big problems, where evacuations need to occur in the rainy season, the evacuation routes that will need to be used. And it will also give us some insights into problems we can point out to others and that they can help with, and problems we may be able to help with. Now, backing up a little bit, our job, where we own the facility, or we own a portion of channel and we own a facility, we maintain that, we make sure it's in working order. But where it's private property, we're not allowed to work on private property. So that's something that you should understand very well. And we don't have very much in the way of facilities up here in Bell Canyon. So what's the bottom line of that message? It's that you need to take care of yourselves. And to do that, if we're going to help you with all the information we can get you on where the problem areas might be as we get through these analyses. But you need to start thinking, National Weather Service says 80% chance El Nino year this year, which means wetter than average. So it behooves us all to get ready for that. We've got some books in the back that show you how you can protect your house, how you can redirect flow. And we've also got experts standing by, both from watershed outside, and we've got a couple of folks from NRCS. If you raise your hands right here. These folks, that's the Natural Resources Conservation Service, part of USDA. Their expertise is in erosion control and flood and sediment management. We will be chasing all the dollars we can find to chase to see if we can do enhancements or projects up here. A lot of times we'll come in if we deem it necessary to build a big temporary debris basin to catch the stuff before it gets to you. I'm not sure where that's going to go, but that's usually under the emergency watersheds protection program that's with NRCS. We'll be partnering with them. We'll be looking to FEMA for money. We'll be looking to the state for money. We're also in contact with LA County, and we're coordinating with them on efforts that we might be able to help each other. And then I believe it's Ranches Simi Park District that sits up on top or behind around here. We're talking to them, both of them on Monday, and coordinating efforts and information. All that will be available to you on our website, bcfloodinfo.com. Of course, you can always call the office for any additional help. There are some things I want to suggest to you. One is that for these types of flows, if we get the heavy rain here and we get mud flows, flood insurance will cover it. And you can buy flood insurance now, and it won't become active for 30 days. But that will, if you get debris flow through your home, and it's happened on numerous occasions, it will help you clean that up. So I want to encourage you to talk to your insurers, figure out what works best for you, and understand that it doesn't become active for about 30 days. We'll be looking at the urban interface where the mountains hit the streets down here, trying to figure out where the stuff's going to pop out, what streets it'll run down, that sort of thing. Of course, that's going to be available to you at VC Flood Info. I assume, or I know, we'll be having more of these meetings. We'll keep you updated with where we are, what we're doing, and we'd be happy to come and have any special meetings we need to. Just talk to Eric and let us know. We also have on hand right now 10,000 empty sandbags and 2,500 filled sandbags. I'll talk to Eric and see where he wants us, if he wants us to bring some up to the community center and empty or full. The full ones are hard to handle. It's hard to put more than, say, 10 or 12 in the car, but the empty ones you need to fill yourself, so we'll figure it out. Working with Eric. And we're all available. The watershed folks, myself, MSTS folks will be at that table just outside the door to answer any questions you have later. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Charles.
Jeff, just real quick, could you touch on the warning aspect of things, of flood warning information?
Oh yeah, so the flood warning, of course, I talked to you about how we do 30 days, 14 days, 72 hours, then we run them off every 4 hours. We are connected at the hip with Sheriff's OES. They know us, we know them, they know my job as well as I do almost on this watershed stuff. So we will be preparing through OES evacuation areas that will become a problem. They will have thresholds associated with them. For example, if a rainfall intensity of X inches per hour is forecast for a particular area, maybe a problem, you will know what those are. You can register at VC Alert, but if you haven't already, you will then receive warnings according to those thresholds. We will be developing evacuation routes. And Kevin, our OES director, he's always likes to make it clear that we're very focused and targeted because we can be on who to evacuate. And it's not just a blanket evacuation notices. So if you get an evacuation notice, I would suggest you pay attention to it. Is that what you want to cover, Mike? Target work. Charles.
Hi, I'm Charles Handel. I'm the manager of the Environmental Health Division. The topic here is debris removal. I can tell, based on the phone calls that we received over the last week, that this community is definitely anxious to start getting to work and getting that debris removed from the property. Our first step with the debris removal process is to do the public health declaration, which Dr. Levin had mentioned. That set in motion a couple of things. One, we really don't want the community to start removing the waste debris from their property, specifically from the structures. It is a concern. We want to make sure that that material is handled, transported, and disposed of properly. In the event of wanting to receive a trash bin, we simplified this process where all you need to do is contact your local hauler or trash company, request a trash bin, and they will notify us, and we will evaluate the criteria and let waste management know if you can receive that bin. The other thing that this declaration set in motion is it allowed us to request support from the state with their consolidated debris removal program. At this time, we have not received a formal response, but we are optimistic. The state debris removal program is a program that the Thomas Fire victims were lucky enough to participate in. It's a two-step process. The first phase of the process involves hazardous waste removal. They will send out crews if we're successful at no cost to homeowners and to the county. They will come out in groups and they will remove all hazardous materials from their property. It's more in line with the hazardous waste, obvious things like cans, pesticides that are obviously removed. They will also at that time do an asbestos identification to see if your property may contain asbestos. So that's phase one. Phase two involves the full debris removal of your property. If we're lucky enough to have the state come out, their program will be in place, and we'll be providing more information later on. They do take every precaution to eliminate dust, eliminate the transportation hazards associated with this debris. The goal is to not have this dust flying and affecting your communities, affecting your neighbors, and affecting the whole of Ventura County on the way to the landfill. Another point to make is that the landfill will not accept debris unless it is handled or managed in a certain way. So one thing that they do is they'll come to your property and they will offload this debris into to milliliter plastic, and they will make a burrito, and that will then be transported to the landfill. There is an option for the local debris removal program that the county is currently trying to establish. We will be going to our board to establish this local debris removal program for homeowners who do not wish to participate in the state program. That information will be available shortly, and as soon as we get approval. We hope to hear from the state as early as next week. Again, I can't emphasize that we are hopeful, and we do ask for your patience this stage of the cleanup process. Once we have more information, we will be shooting that information through our Ventura County Recovers.org website. There you will find information that is updated on debris removal. Keep in mind, this is not only for homeowners who may have lost their homes, it's for the entire community, as well as contractors. I had a contractor ask me the other day, how do I get updated information? But I don't want to keep calling you. Keep calling me, that's fine. But the information will be updated on the Ventura County Recovers.org. I would also like to mention, part of my program is mosquito abatement. We do see a lot of swimming pools in this area that may be impacted by the fire that may not be operational. If there are mosquito complaints, I do encourage you to call our complaint hotline. We're getting into the winter season. This shouldn't be an issue, but later on, that might become a problem. That phone number is 805-658-4310. We'll have staff available outside if you have any specific questions about the debris removal process and the exemptions. There will be handouts on what material we will allow to go to a landfill at this point. But right now, the structural debris is prohibited from being removed from the property without our approval. At this point, that concludes what I have to say. I would like to hand it over to Winston Wright with our planning division.
Hello. Hello, thank you.
So just to echo a couple of things that Charles said about this debris removal program. There's the two phases. That debris removal for the toxic phase happened very quickly after the Thomas fire. I think it was done in 3 weeks. And we think with the fewer number of properties we have here, it could be done even more quickly. The second phase, the Cal Recycle piece, also happened very quickly. They really did a good job, and certainly better than we had seen up north. And they have a lot of experience doing it. They did about, and I think we had 90% of the homeowners signing up for it. It didn't cost the homeowners anything, they just had to sign their insurance proceeds. But other than that, it almost sounded too good to be true. So it's sort of hard to let people know this really is that good of a program. And they're very good at it, they're very thoughtful about how they do it. And they did it, all those homes, about 780 homes in about 5 months. So anyways, it's a very good program. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Really so good to get that feedback. Again, my name is Winston Ryder. We're a planning manager and resource management agency. Our goal is to assist homeowners through the permitting processes in a streamlined manner, so the reconstruction efforts can be streamlined and homeowners can get back into their homes as quickly as possible. The county has implemented several steps based on our experience with the Thomas fire. As Mike has mentioned, And those measures were implemented to assist homeowners through this process, and those included setting up a permit coordinator to provide a single point of contact for property owners to get through the process in case there's a hiccup, or to ensure that we follow a set pattern so that each of the reviewing agencies follow in the permitting process are able to deal with this in a consistent manner and identify that we're dealing with fire victims so we can move the permit through quickly. That contact person is myself, and I have the hotline is the cell phone that I keep in my pocket. So if I need my contact after this meeting, I can provide you my card and that phone number. The planning division will prepare a permit history package for each individual property owner, so we know what the baseline situation is on what was lost and what is intended to rebuild. That is helpful during the rebuild process, so building and safety can expedite the building permit process through the system quickly. We're shooting for a 2-week turnaround for project corrections if there are some. That way you can get your project moving through the door quicker than it would normally occur. So we're expediting and putting additional resources through specifically for folks who are dealing with this catastrophe. So that hotline that I'm talking about, I'll give you real quickly, is 805-754-7048, and you can call that hotline. It's operational between 7:30 and 4:30, Monday through Friday. If you need to leave a message, please do so. I get a lot of calls that people don't leave messages, so I don't know if they need assistance or if it's just someone calling the line to test it out. But please do leave a message and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. If I'm not available, I'll hand that phone line off. And again, that phone number is 805-754-7048. And that'll be specific to the rebuilding permitting effort. So if you need a permit for the Resource Management Agency, that would be the phone number that you can call to set up an appointment. You're also on Ventura County Recovers and the RMA website. There'll be a manner in which you can submit an email so that you can get an appointment set up directly with me or my staff. And again, what we want to do on our first meetings is set up a file for you, identify what the square footage is, what we were lost, and we've gotten together coordinated with other reviewing agencies like the fire department and public works, the watershed protection agency, and building and safety to agree upon certain terms that help expedite the process. And the basic terms are, if you've got an issue related to that's a limiting factor to meet current codes related to water or access, we can assure you that we're going to waive certain current standards if you're rebuilding the same size home or smaller. Not many properties here rely on septic systems, though I think there are some exceptions to that rule. There's information we've already been using, and we just been trying to rehabilitate septic systems. That information will also be available on that Ventura County Recovery website and through the RMA website. So I know that folks are going to be interested in all of the avenues they can explore related to affordable housing. The Planning Division recently went through the Board of Supervisors to update our temporary housing arrangement after a disaster and during the construction process. You will need to coordinate that with your HOA. You are within a HOA, which has a set of agreements between the property owners here in Del Canyon that is different than the other areas of unincorporated county. But there is the ability to park an RV on your property and under certain health and safety rules. But you want to make sure that you coordinate that with your HOA, because we can't control what the HOA rules are. So we can issue a permit for you to live in an RV or use an RV for a construction trailer while you're under rebuild effort, as long as you coordinate with us and get that approved beforehand. Otherwise, it would be considered a substandard housing arrangement that we normally wouldn't allow. So please let us know if that's something that you need to do. There's applications for that out front. After checking with your HOA and discussing that matter, please feel free to contact us regarding that. We've been taking these similar steps that we're dealing with, and we anticipate additional information to be provided on the website shortly. And those details and that information will be coming in the next couple of weeks. I can assure you that we're moving quickly on that. We're not delaying our meetings or letting other things distract us from helping your recovery efforts. Monday morning, we'll be meeting with many of the agencies serving the resource management agencies to start discussions about what we're going to be doing to help further expedite this process. I appreciate your time. I can assure you that we understand that there's people behind these permits and that the homes, there's nothing more personal than that. As the son of a developer and someone who's built my own home, I understand how much is invested in this process and what it means to lose your home is an absolute devastating. And as Dr. Livingston, Ms. Livingston had mentioned earlier, they're going through a lot of grief and emotions, and we understand that. So we'll do our best to help you through the permitting process and not be the bureaucratic wall that some people anticipate that they could encounter. Again, thank you for your time, and please let me know directly how I can assist you with your permitting efforts.
Winston, I did want to also ask Jeff to talk about an erosion control workshop that's coming up, so Jeff.
Oh, thank you, Mike. I forgot to mention, family, we're going to have a workshop. It's tentative, so what the workshop does is brings together contractors, suppliers, consultants, and other experts like NRCS ourselves, all to one place where you can come and meet with them, look at products, see what, if you're interested. It seems like the center of mass of this fire is somewhere around TO, and we've asked TO if they'd be willing to host for Bell Canyon, Oak Park, and Malibu Burn as well. And so right now, tentatively scheduled 12/8, December 8th, that's a Saturday, and more to follow. So we need that much time in order to get the invites out and get the noticing out and so forth. But it should hopefully happen before the rainy season starts. Any questions, see us outside, and we'll be sending out notices so that everything's finalized.
Good afternoon, my name is Jeffrey Kruger. I'm with FEMA Region 9 out of Oakland up north. So FEMA has been present in Ventura County since November 9th in direct support of the state and our county partners. My heart goes out to all of you for the losses you sustained, both in this fire, the shooting, and of course last year's Thomas fire too. So I want to point out a couple of things. On November 12th, the President signed a major disaster declaration, including Ventura County. And one key difference from last year's Thomas fire is that the county was given, or was granted, access to the individual assistance program right away. Whereas last year, I believe it was a period of about 6 weeks, you guys had to wait until you were granted individual assistance. So I say that to point out that you all are eligible to apply for FEMA disaster assistance now. So how do you apply for FEMA disaster assistance? There's a few ways you can do it. One is to visit the web, www.disasterassistance.gov. Number two is to call toll-free 24/7/365, and the number is 1-800-621-FEMA. That's 1-800-621-FEMA, or 3362. And finally, you can come see us in person, and there's several ways you can come see us in person. First of all, I've got a team of outstanding, motivated staff right outside that are willing to talk to you and answer your questions. They're part of what we call a disaster survivor assistance team. And so they're here to answer your questions, to help you get registered. I think if they got their devices connected to the internet, I know it's a little tough up here. But they're also out and about in the community. I do want to caveat that it's unfortunate, but there have been many documented examples in the past of unscrupulous individuals posing as FEMA employees to try and steal your information. I can tell you that our disaster survivor assistance crews out in the field, they're going to be wearing FEMA gear, and they're all going to have a government-issued badge. So if you don't feel comfortable with the situation, feel free to challenge them and ask them for their ID. right? And honestly, if you still don't feel right about it, feel free to call the authorities. We're not going to get mad, right? We're legitimate, so we'll stand by and wait for the authorities. And the point I'm trying to get to here is I don't want to see anybody get taken advantage of by people pretending to be FEMA. And then one last way to register for assistance is to come see us at the local assistance center. We are set up in Agoura Hills, but I would recommend you go to the Ventura County facility at the George R. Brimhall Library at 1401 Jans Road. And the reason is there's, in addition to FEMA, there's state assistance programs and a lot of county services too that you're not going to get if you go to an LA County facility in Agoura Hills. Finally, the registration period for FEMA assistance is 60 days. And that 60 days started on November 12th when the President signed the disaster declaration. So if you haven't registered for FEMA assistance, I encourage you to do so and do it within the 60 days. A few other things, I encourage you to stay connected with what's going on with the disaster. There's a few different ways you can do so. If you're on Twitter, you can follow us at FEMA Region 9, the number 9. You can also follow the state's response to this disaster at PAL_ODS, or you can visit on the web at FEMA.gov/disaster/4407. So I'll be available after this to answer questions, and like I said, I've got some staff outside that can provide detailed information about the individual assistance program. Now, there's really no one cookie cutter answer to the individual assistance program because everyone's going to have a different situation financially, the extent of damages to their residents and whatnot. A few points on the individual assistance program. I just want to manage expectations, right? So the first step, you've got to call your insurance company, right? File a claim with them. FEMA disaster assistance is not a substitute for your insurance payment, right? It cannot be a duplicate of benefits, right? What it can do is help you start to make essential repairs to your home. Furthermore, FEMA disaster assistance cannot make you whole. I think in the past there are people that have had that expectation, and it's not what the program is designed to do. It can help you begin the recovery process. FEMA grants, if you receive one or if you are eligible for one, it does not have to be repaid. Furthermore, FEMA assistance is non-taxable, and it will not affect your eligibility for Social Security, Medicaid, or any other federal benefits. You could be eligible for rental assistance or home repairs if the home you live in for more than half of the year is damaged and is unsafe to stay in, does not have power or water, or you cannot get to it safely. All right, again, you can visit disasterassistance.gov, call 1-800-621-FEMA, or come see us in person at the local assistance center, or contact one of your disaster survivor assistance teams. In the coming week, we're working really hard to open a disaster recovery center in the Thousand Oaks area. Stay tuned, there'll be more to follow on that once we get a site identified and opened up. I'll be followed by Mr. Corey Williams from the Small Business Administration.
Good afternoon. My name is Corey Williams, and I'm a public information officer with the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Disaster Assistance. Again, as Jeff alluded, my heart truly goes out to the Bell Canyon residents that were affected by these devastating fires. SBA stands ready to assist Bell Canyon residents in the form of low-interest disaster assistance loans. Now, the first step, as Jeff mentioned, is to register with FEMA first by going to disasterassistance.gov. Also, we strongly encourage you that if you are referred to SBA to submit your SBA application, even if you do not need or even want your loan. We offer low-interest loans to homeowners up to $200,000 to repair and replace your disaster-damaged real estate, and up to $40,000 to repair and replace disaster-damaged personal property, which would also include any vehicles that were damaged. Also, we have if you're going to rebuild, you want to rebuild stronger. So we have mitigation funds up to $200,000 for if you're going to rebuild, maybe a stronger roof, you know, different fire protection measures that can be implemented as you rebuild. So that is available up to $200,000 for mitigation funds as well. Also, for any residents that had a current existing mortgage, there are refinance options that are available for Bell Canyon residents. And we have the same deadline as FEMA. The deadline to apply for physical damage is January 11th, 2019. Now, with all of our loans, there is a 5-month deferment. So the difference with our loan program versus traditional SBA is that, you know, most loans with traditional SBA are actually funded by banks, but they're guaranteed by the SBA. So these are your federal taxpayer dollars at work. So all of our loans are directly funded by the U.S. Treasury. As a result, all of our loans have a 5-month deferment on them. Now, in order to apply for the loans, you can go to disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA. Again, that's disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA. Or you can call our customer service center number, which is 800-659-2955. Now, in addition to myself, I have Sushil Kumar, one of our other public information officers, raise his hand, and I have Rigo Gonzalez Nosa at the very back of the room. We have a table set up in the back where we can talk to you about any questions. Now, we also offer programs for our business owners as well, but because this is a more of a, you know, homeowners association type situation, I really want to make sure to really highlight the programs of our homeowners program. But if you are a business owner, again, we will be back at the table. Sushil, Rigo, myself will talk about the business options as well. But we again encourage you to apply, disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA, or you can call the 800 number, 800-659-2955.
We have one more topic we're going to cover, and it's just some miscellaneous things, and then we'll go into the question period. We want to stress again the recovery website, VenturaCountyRecovers.org. That's where you're going to get the latest information. If you register on there, you'll get proactive emails and notification about future town halls. Like if the debris program gets approved, which we're optimistic and we're very hopeful, very soon you get an announcement. We're going to have a town hall on that. So if you want to get the first notification, please sign up on that website, Ventura County Recovers. And it also has lots of information. It details more about what you're hearing today. It talks about the debris removal process. It talks about rebuilding, permitting. It's got a fair amount of information on it now, but as we move down and get certain things approved by the state program, you'll see more information on, once the program's approved, you'll get more specifics on that. We don't want to put that out there if it's not a reality yet. But anyway, so please monitor that website. A couple miscellaneous things on the side of property tax and vital records. At the local assistance center, we have representatives from our tax collector and our assessor and our clerk recorder. Our clerk recorder is providing replacement of all vital records that were destroyed at no charge. So if you've lost your property deed, if you lost your birth certificate and you happen to be born in Ventura County, your marriage certificate, any of those vital records, they will provide replacements free of charge. You can go out to the local assistance center. Actually, our clerk recorder has an office in the Thousand Oaks City Hall too. So you can go there. They are open this weekend, and they're open normally, I think, 4 days a week out there. So either the local assistance center or Thousand Oaks City Hall. With regard to your property tax payment, you have a property tax coming up, your home's been destroyed or damaged, the value is different now. And it will be different until your rebuild is complete. Our assessor has what's called a calamity claim. And you submit that claim, and they come out and do an expedited reappraisal of your property. And in the Thomas Fire, which happened 2 months or a month later, that reappraisal was done for almost 1,000 residences in time for the second property tax installment. So if you have 2 installments, you'll actually get an adjustment. If you fill out a calamity claim, We're very optimistic it'll be processed in time that you'll see the results of that. Some people even got a refund on their second property tax payment. So if you have a damaged property, please submit that calamity claim to the county assessor. You can get it on their website, you can get it at the local assistance center. About the property tax bill coming up, if your property's been destroyed or you're materially impacted, you can submit an application to our tax collector who will extend your deadline while you get your finances in order. And they will do that with no penalties and no interest. So if you are a victim of the fire, you can go to the local assistance center for that form too from our tax collector. You can go onto the tax collector website as well. So those services are out there. So with that, we're going to go into questions. And we had, like I say, a lot of duplicate questions, but we had several. We'll start with our public safety folks. And I'll direct this to our sheriff representative. There were questions about the evacuation notification process, which is very difficult here in Bell Canyon given your topography. But Commander, if you could talk a little bit about what you know about the notification process.
Sure. The topography of Bell Canyon is very unique, and it's very difficult to get cell service in here consistently, depending on where you are in the canyon. So what we do in situations like Bell Canyon is we try to get our people in as quick as possible and make those door-to-door notifications. You're lucky though, you also have a very active homeowners association with a security attached to that. So word travels quickly in Bell Canyon. Unfortunately, excuse me? Oh, okay. Okay. Unfortunately, the fire burned so fast, it did take the cell sites down. And so that complicated the notification system, that technology part of it. While we're all here, can I have a show of hands that did not get notified?
No, I didn't get notified.
Evacuation notification did not get a notification.
No. That's what I mean. That is what I mean. We were not even notified.
Okay. And I will bring that back to my OES counterparts, and we will work on a better system, maybe just for Bell Canyon. And I'll brief the sheriff that there was a significant amount of people that did not get notified.
Right. The next questions are for our fire chief. They want to know if you are aware of the cause of the fire.
Okay, so I know if you've been following in the papers, the cause of the Hill fire, the original one that started, has been determined to be human cause. Cause has not been determined yet on the Woolsey fire.
Mark, there was a question, or Chief, there was a question on how you prioritize which homes are protected. Can you talk to that a bit?
Got it. And just briefly to address, I know some of the concerns on the evacuation. We recognize that in Bell Canyon there are some challenges on communication with cell service, etc. You know, we have that problem with our, just call it when you call 911 and the number of different places it can possibly go. So we are still actively working with our communications community, all of our service providers, to try and address those issues in here separately. And I'll just be honest on these. When we have engines coming in for structure protection, really the guidance is, and it goes back to what happens when we have large incidents involving a lot of people, it's that concept of triage. And that is trying to do the most good for the greatest number of resources in there. So there's a variety of variables that go into deciding where you're going first. A lot of the times it has to do where the fire front is coming first, is where, you know, if we have 1 or 2 strike teams, which is 5 or 10 engines, we try and place them in the part of the community that's going to be hit first. We don't differentiate based on the size of the home, whether it's a mobile home to some of the large homes in here. There's no differentiation. What we do look for is defensible space. You guys are rock stars as far as it comes to defensible space. You provide us with a place where at least our firefighters can try and safely defend homes. We look at those things. And then also, you may have seen it on TV where you have somebody's home that has an attic fire. The reality is, once a fire establishes itself in a home, especially in an attic, it could take 5 to 10 engines to try and save that one house that's already burning. While we could, we could make that commitment, but then we're going to lose an entire neighborhood. So those are the kind of decisions that our company officers and our chief officers are faced with when they come into a community like this. It's trying to evaluate where the fire is going to hit, try and figure out where they can safely defend homes. And there's not a checklist beyond that, but that is the basic answer. It's really trying to do the very most good for the community with the resources we have.
I think Winston wanted to mention something about the expedited cell service replacements.
It was made aware to me that in the beginning of this meeting by Supervisor Parks that there was an application in the system, or at least an inquiry by Verizon, because of a cell tower that had burnt immediately adjacent to this facility. I can assure you that as soon as I get in Monday morning, I will look to see if there's a permit in place or requested from Verizon or any other tower provider here to see if we would apply the same expedited permit process for those towers. We have been in contact with Verizon in Oak Park, and I assure that we've already given them assistance moving through because their tower facility burned down as well. And so I will follow up and make sure that the cellular towers are moved through the permit process in the same manner as the victims that need to rebuild their homes. Because I understand.
Do we have our representative from the State Department of Toxic Substance? So there were some questions about the Santa Susana Field Laboratory and safety in that area, and the state agency responsible for that is the State Department of Toxic Substance Control, and we have a representative here to talk to that.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mohsen Nazemi. I'm Deputy Director for Department of Toxic Substances Control. First, I want to just let you know our hearts go to those who lost loved ones, homes, and those who have been impacted by these devastating fires. Let me just give you a brief summary of what we have done relative to the Santa Susana Field Lab that I think will answer most of the questions that you might have. On Thursday, November 8th, the Woolsey Fire burned portions of Santa Susana Field Lab, or SSFL. Shortly after the fire had moved through the site, PTSD emergency responders reached out to local responders who reported the fire did not affect facilities that had handled radiological material or hazardous waste. On Saturday, November 10th, as soon as access was possible, PTSD investigators entered the site and verified the fire did not burn these facilities. These investigators used portable instruments to take real-time readings of radiation and did not detect any radiation above normal background levels during a visit to the site. The following day, scientists and investigators from DTSC and other agencies began taking additional measurements and collecting samples of air, soil, and ash on the SSFL site and in the communities around the site for further testing. While this initial round of testing and sampling concluded on Wednesday, November 14, additional monitoring is ongoing. Measurements taken with portable instruments that provide real-time readings showed no radiation above normal background levels and no elevated levels of hazardous compounds other than that's normally presented after a fire, as you heard from fire experts who discussed that. In addition, DTSC has sent the air, soil, and ash samples to our environmental chemistry lab for testing, and others have also sent them to their different laboratories for testing. The preliminary results from these samples that were tested by DTSC confirmed no radiation above normal background levels and no elevated levels of hazardous compounds other than those that are normally found after a fire. DTSC expects all analysis to be completed next week, and we will provide a public report to those testing results. And just one additional point, if I may. In addition, DTSC, California Environmental Protection Agency, Office of Environmental Hazard Assessment, and the California Department of Public Health. The response team now includes U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, response team, U.S. Department of Energy Radiological Assistance Program from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories, the civil support team of the U.S. National Guard, and the counties of Los Angeles and Ventura. The response team is working closely with the Incident Command, local law enforcement, and air quality agencies.
Okay. All right, at this point, we're going to move into some debris removal.
Generic property, if you're looking for your valuables, you would want to first of all be careful about any hot spots that are possibly there. There are people who will be wanting to look for valuables and think about moving in with their hands to get this. You should be gloved, you should have long sleeve shirts and pants on, and most importantly, you should have steel shank shoes with steel toes. But there could be anything in that ash, and so don't go in with your hands. Use a trowel or a shovel to look for things. And you might want to find some kind of wire that you could drop it onto so that the ashes would fall through and you might catch objects that stay above. Other than that, use your masks, N95 or N100 masks, and because you're going to be breathing in a lot of ash, have a change, have some additional masks as well, so if it becomes difficult to breathe, you've got a second and a third mask to go to if you need to. That's about it.
Also related to debris removal, there are questions about the non-residents. If you have fences burned, if you have outside debris, there was a question about some material in the backyard, not my main residence, was burned, and how that will be cleaned up. And if our public health or our environmental health representative can touch upon that.
As long as it's not a structure, you can begin to remove that material. Our exemption guide does go through a list of items that are okay, like a fence, backyard furniture, things of that nature, smoke-filled furniture, that can be removed. If it is a secondary residence in the back, that is a structure, so anything above 120 square feet does require debris removal approval through our local program or the state-approved program if that becomes authorized.
Also related to debris removal, there was a question about my foundation, and those are key in the state cleanup program. So could you talk assistance in determining if your foundation is sound, and then if you are part of the program, what happens to your foundation?
So I'm not the subject matter expert with this, our building official would be. However, they made it a point, because it was an issue during the Thomas Fire, to prepare an informational bulletin related to concrete slabs. It can get tested, but generally, the effects of intense heat from a fire, the foundation system generally renders itself unusable. So there is test methods. There is a EPA lab method, 6020 and 7471A, if you choose to go that route. I can tell you with our experience with the state debris removal program, they required all foundations to be removed. And that'll likely be the case this time. And I can tell you with our local debris removal program, our standards for cleanup of debris are going to be consistent with the state's cleanup standards. Caissons, it really just depends. I have to look at them on a case-by-case basis. They focus on the slab, and if the state comes in, generally those questions can be coordinated directly with the state contractor as to what you want to keep.
We had another question on the concern of homeless individuals and encampments and fires, so we're going to talk a little bit from our Human Services Agency about that issue.
Yes, we do have a problem in different parts of our county with homeless encampments, and we do have quite a bit of experience working with situations where there's safety, health and well-being issues resulting from those encampments. And so we do actually have some of our social workers, actually one of our most seasoned social workers today, who is out front at the Human Service Agency table, who has responded to many issues in our encampments, and we've also collaborated with law enforcement in addressing issues there. So very interested in learning more about the actual issues that you're having, and certainly will make myself available after the meeting today to meet with whomever's interested and connect you with our homeless resource and have a conversation about what we can do to address the problem.
And then there were a couple questions about hillside erosion control. And I think Jeff touched on most of those, but specifically they talked about reseeding of hillsides to prevent mudslides. Anything that they can do or that is going to be done to mitigate those hillsides. Jeff, can you touch on that?
Well, generally speaking, reseeding is not recommended, and I'm sure NRCS can tell you why. There are a number of problems with that, and we're talking about broadcasting native seed or even broadcasting non-native seed. We get that a lot. But again, the workshop, the materials we're going to provide you today, and the expertise on any specific questions related to soil erosion and reseeding.
There were questions about if you have homeowners insurance that doesn't cover debris removal. And I can address this. If the state program is approved, you will not be charged. They only, if you have a debris clause in your insurance policy, it only takes what that debris clause allows for. And then if there's anything left over after you're done rebuilding, and it doesn't, and they still haven't recovered their full cost, they'll take that. If you're homeowner's insurance or you do not have insurance that covers your slab or debris removal, there's no cost to you if that state program is approved. Right, I think we've gone through the majority of questions that have been addressed that are, I think, applicable to everybody. There are a couple of individual questions like Pepperdine University, evacuation. We have LA County Fire folks over here. The fire chief can talk to that. But the rest of the questions are very specific and along those lines. So we're going to stay around. We're going to conclude the formal question answer, but we will all stay here and take your questions individually. We'll mingle throughout the room. And feel free to find the individual that's covering the area you would like to hear about and talk to them. So thank you for coming.